World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. This is Tony Rogers, your host for Urbanology, The Art of War. And for those who may be new to Urbanology, The Art of War is really kind of a play on words. My name is William Anthony Rogers, even though most people call me Tony. And I'm a student of Sun Tzu. I love and have followed the strategic classic, The Art of War, for so many years. So we just kind of put them all together, and here it is. This is the second Tuesday in the month, and as you know, my favorite show is because I'm here along with Charlene De La Cruz on the second Tuesday, because we talk about MWBEs and many of the things that are happening at Columbia University that has provided so many opportunities for MWBEs, and as well as business persons throughout our listening area. And based on Soul City, that can be any place in the world now. So also, I'm happy to have two very dynamic women for the first show of Women's History Month. So first of all, I would like to bring on my co-host and the person who makes my life real easy on Tuesday, on the second Tuesday of the month, Charlene De La Cruz.
Hi, Tony.
How you doing? Charlene is the hardest working woman in Columbia University.
I don't know if that's true, Tony. No, another woman that's extremely
well, Tanya might battle you with that, but nevertheless, you're a contender. You're in the ring.
Absolutely. We're two hardworking women, and I'm so happy to be here with you, just to kind of like celebrate and showcase these wonderful women that we're going to be talking to, especially on Women's Day. It's such a
not women's. Well, it is Women's Day. It's Women's Month.
No, this is Women's History Month, but today is Women's Day. So I feel like even more.
That's true. Excuse me. I mean, you see, that's why you got to have the day, because you got men like me trying to always act as if we know better, which we don't.
No, absolutely. But I think that this is such a great show, and I'm very excited about it. Before we get started, I wanted to kind of just showcase an event that we're actually hosting here at Columbia University next week. It's actually a job fair. So Columbia University, the Morningside campus, and the Manhattanville campus is sourcing diverse candidates within the local Harlem community to
Hmm.
come and apply. You will be speaking directly with hiring managers that are sourcing for these jobs on March 15th.
That's great, and I know Matt has that so that we can put it in our network, and um,
Yes.
send me some of that so that I can send it out to
Yeah,
people.
absolutely. So your viewers right now can probably just put their cell phone camera on that QR code,
Hmm.
and it'll bring them right to the link. You don't have to register. Just show up and the event is happening. So I hope, I wish the best of luck to those of the applicants, and hopefully they can source these opportunities.
And you sent that to me, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes. You should
Okay.
have that in your inbox also. So I'll share that again. And I'm thinking just waiting on another detail so that you can share it to your community.
Hmm.
But this is a great opportunity for our local Harlem Nights.
Sounds good, which is again why I always say that you are one of the hardest working women at Columbia University on behalf of Black and Brown people, which is important.
Thank you.
I know that the first half of our show, there's a person who you have worked with and can kind of give the listeners understanding as why I value you so much, and many people do, based on what you have done for Willie Mae, and as we were talking, Krystal Banner is on the second part of the show, but we all were together, and the chemistry was the way it always should be when people who have good energy get together. So I asked her to join in, even though the first half we'll be focusing on Willie Mae, and the second half will be focused on Krystal, but we'll all be able to talk together. So first, bring on Willie, and I'll bring on
Of
Krystal.
course, I have the esteemed honor of working with Willie Mae now, almost 4 years going on. She is the president of Convent Business Concept, and she is the masterful mind of the strategic growth plan that the CU Growth and Development Program utilizes. However, Willie Mae does such much incredible work with capacity building program. She supports the Columbia Community Business Program as well, and she supports other university, just with the capacity building program. So I have the esteemed honor of introducing you to Willie Mae Veasy, a masterful mind woman, and happy Women's Day, Willie Mae.
Thank you so much. It is great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's good to be back and see you again, Tony. And pretty much like I said before we started, anywhere Charlene invites me, I don't know where I'm going. But when Charlene sends me an invite, if I'm available, I show up. But I should have known that something was going on, because when I came in, I was like, oh, she's got lipstick on. Are we going now? Are we going now?
Well, one of the things we're going to do, because you reminded me that when we were in the studio at one point, we were
Yeah.
doing that again. So we want to concentrate and see what has happened since the first time we've met. I also want to bring on Krystal Banner, who's an artist, who's a businesswoman. She's a digital artist. She's a painter. Matter of fact, she has become a very successful career woman in doing digital art and creating different types of projects for people like Hay House. If you go to Hay House and you get a tarot card or some sort of inspirational card, usually Krystal has done some of that work. And now, however, her true love is painting. And since Willie Mae said that she loves painters because her family was painting, I said, well, all things happen for a reason. So I said, Krystal, come on in while we're talking. And Krystal is the second half of the show that we'll focus on you and the things that you're doing and your new project for Krystal, the paintings that will come.
Here.
So, Charlene, it's on you, my dear. Give us a little information as to Willie Mae.
Well, I mean, I would love, Willie Mae, just to kind of like, pick your mind in terms of how did you come to business, to come into business concepts. I know that when I first met you, you're already very well integrated into the See You Grow program, but I am curious, how did you come to here? Like what made you kind of like start your own business and be where you
And
are?
what is that business?
Sure, sure. So as Charlene mentioned, I'm Willie Mae Veasy. I'm president of Covenant Business Concepts. And what we essentially do is we help our clients answer their unique call to excellence. And in particular, we help them grow their business. I've been blessed with the opportunity to work with brilliant minds like Charlene and Tanya Pope and many other people, Karin Naylor, who is the regional director for the Columbia Community Business Program. And over the course of working and collaborating with them, I really saw an opportunity to, I guess, double down and focus on growing diverse businesses. And prior to starting Covenant Business Concepts, I actually worked at Ernst& Young as a director for professional development and management and training, leadership training. I did that for, I would say, well over 15 years while I was there. And one day I just felt like, I'm so blessed. Let me find a way to give back. And that's how Covenant Business Concepts was really created. We used to go into women's shelters and drug rehabilitation centers to help people reintegrate, not just back into society, but for them to help them find jobs. And so we did a lot of career readiness, and it just slowly grew into what it is today. And right now, in addition to collaborating with Columbia around the See You Grow project initiative for vendor development and the Columbia Community Business Program, as I mentioned, with Karin Naylor, we also support projects with the NMSDC. We have a national project that's in place that's running in 5 different states across the country, helping them and through a Centers of Excellence program. We also do a lot of work with Rutgers. They've got a lot of initiatives, one of which Tanya Pope and Charlene are involved with the Ascend. Uh, it's the regional program, I believe. Charlene, is that correct?
That is correct.
The Ascend regional program. And so we're helping entrepreneurs in the tri-state area. And then I also still do work. Ernst& Young was one of my first clients, and I'm still doing work with them around career readiness, summer internships, and the like.
And you don't have a clone? I was getting tired just hearing all of the stuff that
Yeah,
you were doing. I can't imagine doing all of those things.
yeah, yeah.
I know.
They're really interesting.
No, Willie Mae, you're amazing. I feel like that's where I've always known you, but it's just so interesting that your work started with really helping local community, and look where that is at now. Like you're working with very top tier universities throughout different states. And I feel like, how did you really kind of like vision that self? Because I know that we focus so much on vision. Is that something that you focus for yourself as well?
I really had to pivot because, like I said, for 22 years I was at Ernst& Young, and I really thought I was going to do training like I did training when I was at a UI. And when I launched my business, what I discovered is that the large organizations really didn't want to hire a small firm like mine. And then there was just greater opportunity inside of what we are all doing now. And people like Tanya Pope and Karin Naylor really set the example around the impact we can have in our community. Organizations like Columbia, right, and their vested interest in giving back. They have a lot of great initiatives, and you kind of need to meet awesome people across that network who are really committed in helping communities grow. and helping people build their own business. And I think once you get networked into that and they see that you're genuinely interested, right? That you're truly committed, opportunities begin to come your way.
Hmm. And again, the See You Grow program, for those who may not know, that Tanya ran it, but now Charlene is running it. It's a program. I think there are 10 or 20 businesses that come in certain periods of time, and they have different types of assignments. But the whole point of it is to allow for them to take their business to another level and grow. And in many cases, because many of them are engineering businesses or engineering related businesses, to get employment and work at not only Columbia but other places. And so I would imagine, Willie Mae, you help them understand what exactly in your.
So when we're talking about businesses, we want them to really understand the importance of being strategic, and
Mm,
that every successful organization that we rely on today, they have been able to establish themselves because they leverage the drivers of growth. And there's a lot of different frameworks that's out there. McKinsey has a framework, Ernst and Young has a framework around the drivers of growth. And when I researched all of those models around financial management and profitability and organization and work culture development, obviously sales, marketing, and branding, there are specific drivers that you need to put in place to help your organization grow. And then what we needed to do was convert that in a way that was manageable for small businesses. Because a small business, when you're just starting out, whether you launched or you've been around for many, many years, you're not prepared. You don't have the resources, the finances, the level of customer or support staff in place to really run your business like a large organization. But what can we learn from them and incorporate in terms of where we are now to expand the capacity and then achieve exponential growth? And
mm,
there are many models out there, and we just found a way to really make it user friendly for our entrepreneurs.
mm.
Yeah. And it's an
Yeah.
amazing template, Tony. And I talk about it every year to year, but like really Willie Mae's template is what we use throughout the program. Like we focus our curriculum for the firms to actually finish that template as a finished product of the program. That if you don't finish that successfully, that's really not finishing the program successfully. And I feel like that template that you've created, Willie Mae, it really shifts the mindset for some of the firms. They never thought of it like in terms of their financials. They just they chase contracts, but they're not
Right.
necessarily understanding, okay, you can chase the contracts, but how many contracts do you need to chase per month? How many times do you need to dedicate to build that proposal? Like, how many proposals do you have to build per month to build to this financial status that you want to achieve? People
Yeah.
want to get to the $10 million point, but what is that? But see,
Everybody wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to pray. And Krystal, I know you're listening, and we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that you're doing, but I
Mhm.
think it's interesting because what Willie Mae is saying, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and I used to be an engineer, so it's a lot of project management and planning, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, you went from being an engineer to running a business and being an artist. Like, how does that work?" And I'm like, it works because a lot of artists, they might not know that business side, or they might not understand production and cost and profit and, what makes sense and wholesale numbers and all of that. And that's where I lived for a long time. So when I explain to people, they're like, oh, wow, so it does make a difference. And I'm like, yes, because that's one of the things where I use both sides of my brain. I have that creative side, but I also have that
Left
logical
brain,
business
right brain
side
thinking, huh?
that is very necessary if you're trying to grow a business. And I meet a lot of people who are very deep in the creative space because the business stuff it's not fun to do. Like it's fun to paint, it's fun to be creative. It's not fun to look at numbers and do all of these things. But it's necessary if you want to be successful and if you want to have longevity. And so
Willie
when I
Mae, how did you come to your name, the name of Covenant?
Oh wow. So I I I was sitting on the side of the road. So now I have to tell the truth. So you see, I'm like, okay, how much? So I
How
was,
much you go tell on to
yeah.
the world, right?
So when I decided that I wanted to create my own business, I was heartbroken at some point in my career. And there were a lot of things that I wanted to do that I was getting no, internally in the organization. And I just cried out, to the Lord. And I was like, I'm so, I'm telling him, I've got to work harder. I got to run faster, jump, all the things that we say, right? Jump higher. And I just really felt like the Lord was like, well, so what does that mean? And I was like, oh, I can run faster, jump higher than other people. And then the next thing he said to me was, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, I'm going to start my own business. So after I decided I was going to start my own business, I went to the side of the road and I was like, oh Lord, what business I'm going to start? And I was literally parked outside of my company and this huge tractor trailer drove by, and on the side of it, through the entire course of it, it said Covenant, on the side.
So
And
you
I was
got the
like, okay.
message, right?
Yeah, I was okay. I got it, and it came to me that way. But what I was really inspired by was all the people. And Krystal, I know you can relate to this, right? Because when you work in an organization, in a corporation, especially corporate America, I was so inspired by all of those people who worked so hard, didn't get the credit, but they delivered every day. Like those are like promise keepers. Those are people, they're just delivering on the commitment of the organization. And that's how I came up with Covenant. It's just people that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. You don't even have to worry about it. They're going to show up and they're going to knock it out the park. So that's Covenant Business Concepts.
I love that. I
That
love
is
that.
an amazing story. I didn't even know that. I'm like learning so much about you, Willie Mae.
Sometimes I've interviewed even relatives in my show, and I didn't know that. Sometimes these are ways that we allow for people to express themselves, but it also is a good business tool because a lot of people see not the business component, but the person behind that. And in many cases, that allows for me to feel a lot better in doing business with you because I know who you are. I know what you had to go through to get to where you are.
Sure.
And it allows for me, if I have to make a choice between this person and that person, it's always better to go with someone that you can feel that you can trust, that has a certain type of spirit or relationship.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about Charlene something when you were talking about Tanya. And I remember when I first met you, Charlene, and Tanya brought you in and she mentioned, that you had this new role. And she looked at me very earnestly and she said, and we need her to succeed in this role. Like, how Tanya
I
looks at
know how Tanya is. Yeah.
and we need her to succeed in this role.
Wow.
And it wasn't like she was saying, like giving me this big directive, but when you look at all of us that's in this network, we've made that decision. We've made that decision that we are going to show up for one another and help one another succeed. And it's not, anything complicated. It's, well, what do you need? Who do I know? How can I get you connected in a genuine way? And it's something that it's just always mutually beneficial. It pays a level of dividends you can't even really explain
and
to.
and and it is, and you play it forward because as how this show started, Laverta Fountain was the vice president at Columbia University. Tanya worked with her,
I remember
and
her.
and I would have Laverna on, and one day Laverna said, Tony, every time I get ready to get on your show, I got to call Tanya into my office, asked her what I need to say, who I need to talk to, who I need. She said, instead of me being that, why don't you have Tanya be your co-host? And the rest was history because Tanya knew everybody and she knew, I got whoever I wanted from the governor to the mayor. I got whoever I wanted on my show. And then one day, Tanya said, Tony, I've been working, but Charlene knows all of this stuff. Matter of fact, she knows stuff that I don't know because she's from the young group and She should be your co-host on your show. And there's
The great,
Charlene.
the great thing about that is that that is legacy leadership at its best,
And it's
right?
important
A
because a
legacy
lot of
legacy.
times people don't want to allow for somebody else to come over and take up some of that light, because sometimes we have spotlight junkies, and they get shaky if the spotlight is not on them. It's like,
Exactly.
they need a fix. And so Tanya will, I'm sure, be here when I'm not here. I already told Tanya this is going to be your show here, this part of this, because you will have to start recruiting somebody, Charlene, for for you. As well as Charlene, it's going to be a Charlene show. But that is important, and that's something that, for my, I go back a long way. Willie Mae, you may almost be as far, but not quite as far. I go back a long, long, long way. And it was not always that way. We didn't have the ability to communicate the way we should, because, as as the slave mentality, I guess there's
It's
no
a
other way
a
that I can
different
say that.
generation. It's a different generation.
But that's the case. But now we have this ability, and that's why it's important that I have Matt McCoy in my life, so that I can give you ladies the type of visibility that's necessary that we couldn't do for ourselves before. We
Sure.
have people watching you now all around the world. I mean, this live period. We can change our narrative, and that's a wonderful opportunity. And so I'm so happy to be able to talk to people like yourselves, because if it's not us, we can't expect anyone else to promote us the way we are supposed to promote ourselves.
Absolutely.
In its truest form, right? And the great thing about Charlene and Krystal is that it's a different generation, and they're free, right? Of Tony, for you and I, no one was trying to make it easy for us
Not
to
at
succeed.
all.
We want to
I
do
mean,
it.
I shouldn't say that. I mean, there
There
wasn't as
were
many as it is
people.
now.
There were people. There were
Because
people, but they were the exception, right?
yeah, there's some. I'm just looking back. I hate to give my age, but I'll be 75 in June, and I can remember when I was very young in the South, there were always someone who would call me to the side and say, "Look, you don't want to go that way. You better go this way. Now you can go that way if you want to, but I've been there, so I know it's better to learn from my mistakes." But some people like me, because I had a hard head, I had to learn on my own.
Yeah.
But
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 they
it's
saw
important.
potential in you. They saw potential in you, and that's why they stopped and said, "Let's go this way." And when
So
you look
all
at
my life, and maybe I was blessed, but all my life I've had someone to kind of tell me, well, maybe you shouldn't do that, or maybe you should look at it this way, or maybe you should try to do this, and the like. So I feel that it's important to give that back. I feel that it's important to create that type of avenues to allow for people like the Charlene's and the Krystals and the Willie Mays to have a forum, because you
well,
deserve
thank
it.
you.
You've worked so hard
Yeah.
to do what you do for so many people. It's important for people to know who you are, and to know some people have benefited from your services and they don't even know. The businesses that you've helped, the cards, the tarot cards, you might not even think about that, but you touched the life, and now they can see the face behind that. That's a great thing.
I would say it's definitely a blessing to have, Tony and Willie Mae and Tanya, because just having people that push you to your greatness and push you to like those very uncomfortable points in life, that's where you're going to see like the best potential. So I know, like, even for you, Krystal, here you are like in this amazing job. You have a job, you're traveling the world, but what gives you life is creating. And
Right.
that's what you really start pivoting to, the creative side. And I did take a little peek at your website. It's very good. I think I may have to go in and just purchase a few things because it's not just her. You know,
You
you have
see,
like greeting cards, you have
not,
banners, so you have like
Mhm.
so much great potential like in the stationery department
Right.
in terms of creating. So I feel like that's
Mhm.
exciting.
Yes.
now you see, before we came on the air, I kind of said something to Charlene about, well, maybe Crystal might be able to do something in Colombia or whatever, and I saw her eyes moving. Now you understand what I'm saying. While we were talking, she's already gone to your site to see what can happen and the like. But that's my girl. She's that's why she's a star. Her mind is always going as to how she can do something that can be a benefit based on where she is.
Right.
Willie Mae, before we move into finding out a little bit more about Miss Banner, what can people do if they want to reach you? What are some of the things you're looking to do in 2022?
So, my ask, if I had a formal ask in the situation, is that if you're in a leadership role in a major organization and you're looking to launch a new and different vendor development program, so I don't really work one on one with clients. A lot of my work is through organizations that have a committed budget in order to either develop diversity training, develop vendor development programs for, again, minority women owned businesses, and you're looking to get it off the ground. We are the people and definitely available to you to help design that. We create the curriculum, we create the workbooks, we can facilitate it for you, or just set, or I guess prepare your people to lead it themselves.
And how would they reach you?
You can reach me directly on my cell at 732-789-4691. Best way to reach me.
Or we'll
Yeah, you
Charlene
can
De La
go to
Cruz.
my website as well. You can go to my website, which is www.covenantbusinessconcepts.com, or you can email me at wmveasy at gmail.com. And I'll put that in the chat as well.
That'd be great. Crystal,
Yes.
South Carolina, it was when I when we talk about how things happen. Matt McCoy and I was at the gallery. There's a gallery, and it's French, so I always say home to Holland because that's the place where it is in. you know, it's a wonderful gallery on Malcolm X Boulevard, and we were visiting there, and Crystal was there, and we were talking, and and she said she was an artist, but I didn't know that much about her. And then I got Jerome, one of the directors of the gallery, gave me information about this artist that was coming in on Saturday for a show. And he said, you gotta bring her on. She's a wonderful person. She has so much stuff going on. You got to put her on her show. And I said, well, this is a business forum here. He said, well, she's a businesswoman too. She's an artist, but because I'm looking at artists, and I always, which it is a business, but unfortunately, so many artists know what their art is, but don't know what the
Right.
business component of it is.
Very true.
So when I started talking to Crystal, who has been in both worlds, it just seemed like that's a good fit to what we're going to do. And there she is, Krystal Banner. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Krystal Banner. I'm actually originally from South Carolina.
South
Now I live
Carolina, yay!
Yes. Now I live in the DC area, but for most of my career, I was an engineer. I went to Clemson, majored in engineering. So I worked in, people find it hard to believe, but like very heavy duty factories, working with process improvement. And art was always something that was a passion of mine, but I joke with people and say, like, I never went into this wanting to have a business. It just seemed like a lot to deal with, like, and it's not something I was taught. Like, I was taught to go to school, get a good job, do well, and just that's it. So I always had this love for art. I just did not know being from South Carolina, it's different than New York where you meet creatives all the time. I never met anybody who was working as an artist. So I just never or did art in any kind of capacity as a living. So I never really saw that as a feasible option for a career until it just kept calling me. And I actually started out making greeting cards for friends. And they were like, these are good. You should sell these. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. But after a while, I decided to put some online and they started selling very well. So that's when I started Kaleidodope. And the name is inspired. My work is very colorful. My name is Krystal with a K. So I always have to tell people like it's spelled with a K. So I wanted something that kind of played off of my name starting with a K. And my birthday's on the 11th. The number 11 is very important to me.
11th of? 11th of what month?
11 of this month. Yeah. So my birthday's on Friday. So the number 11.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It had special meaning to me. So Kaleidodope has 11 letters. And when I would show people my art, they'd be like, oh, this is dope. This is dope. So I'm like, oh, it just flows. So I actually just started out with greeting cards. And after that, I was going through, I guess, this spiritual transformation within myself and asking myself, like, I'm doing well, but like, am I happy? Like, is this something I'm passionate about? I don't know. So, and when I was traveling in Europe, I was going to these galleries and I'm like, nobody looks like me. And how powerful is art in terms of how it affects how you see yourself and like all of these things. So I just started creating. And that's what led to me illustrating a tarot deck, illustrating an affirmations deck, because it was at a point where I made a decision, like something has to change. I want to leave, but I don't know how it's going to happen. And they say, watch what you ask for because you might get it. And my company was doing a reduction in force. And my mentor at the time was encouraging me to go. He was like, I believe in what you're doing. You should go give it a try. And of course, fear kicked in. I'm like, I have a mortgage, I have bills. Like, no. But sometimes you just get signs. And I was just getting signs that I had to go. And because the position where they were going to transfer me, I would have been miserable. And I took that leap of faith and dove into Kaleidodope 100%. And it was almost like when I made that decision, whatever lid to my creativity came off. And I was just so inspired by this newfound freedom that I just started creating. And my work is very rooted in representation and wanting people to feel seen, whether it's cultural themes, whether it's seeing somebody who looks like them, and also just wellness and kind of mental health. So in my own journey in this transformation, I was doubting myself and I was like, I have to change the way I'm thinking about this change in my life. I'm assuming everything's going to fall apart and that's why I'm afraid. But I'm like, what if it's like even better than I could have imagined? And that's when I started creating my affirmation deck that is now published through Hay House. Mm-hmm. It was basically the affirmations I was telling myself to boost myself up. Like, you are a masterpiece. Like, I accept the unknown. I need to raise my vibration. I am in control of my life. Like, I was empowering myself in this way. So that little voice in my head, instead of doubt, it became like my little cheerleader. Like, you got this. Like, you have the talent. Like, you can do this. Like, this is what you were built for. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And from there, I just let my creativity take me wherever. So at this point, I've illustrated and self-published over 10 decks, which include affirmations, oracle decks, tarot decks, all kinds of things that focus on representation. I have a line of greeting cards that is now sold in over 200 stores and several big box stores. So if you've heard of Paper Source, Barnes and Noble, things like that, you can find my planners and my decks there. But all of this just came from me doing what I feel was my calling. And it's developing into more than I planned on it. And like I said, like, I never went into this like, oh, I really want to be an entrepreneur, because if there wasn't something I was passionate about, it would be hard for me, because business isn't easy. Entrepreneurship isn't easy. And I think that's the thing about, if you're not serious about it, that's when you have people that aren't passionate about how they move forward, or don't have those plans, or don't know or don't vision where they want this to go. So since from the beginning, I was like, I want this to be long term. I use that like those artistic gifts, but also the lessons and the knowledge I learned from the engineering world. And like I went over to China at one point to go to the production facility that was creating the decks that I made to check on things because I'm from that world, so I know. And they were like, "We've never had people approach this way, and you can do everything. Like you're illustrating."
Especially people looking like you.
So like people were thrown off, and I think that's one thing in my engineering career too. Is one thing I fought is being taken seriously. I'm a very girly girl, and I'm a woman, and I'm Black, and it's one of those things where it's like I want people to know that I'm intelligent and I can do all of this. And it's very important to me. So I was like, I always want people to take me seriously. And it's the same thing with my art. And I joke and say it's a Trojan horse. It's pretty, but there's depth. And my mom used to always say, like, it's good to be cute, but you have something else to offer. So that's why education and being like intelligent and clever, and I want people to think, that has been a part of my work and in many ways.
And you have opening.
Yes.
Give the address and tell us a little bit about what people will see when they come to the show.
It's interesting because I will be showing my paintings for the first time like ever in life in Harlem at L'Espace de Rêve. Let me read I'm not from Harlem, so I don't know, like, oh, it's between this street and this street. Give me just a second. So the address is 246 Malcolm X Boulevard. It's between 122nd and 123rd. So why this is like a full circle moment for me is when I first started creating art, I never wanted to show anybody. Like, it's very personal. You want people to like it, right? So it's like, I don't know, I'm sensitive. I don't know. I don't really want to put it out there. I don't want to hear people's judgment. So I never really wanted to show it. And when I started my business, I'm like, I'm going to have to put myself out there. People don't think this, but I am an introvert. I'm just very passionate about what I do. So I love to talk about it. But I prefer to be behind the scenes. But when I started my business, I'm like, there's benefit to me talking about what I do and me being seen so people can see, like, yes, I am a Black woman and I'm doing all of this, everything. And I am capable of doing that. And I'm passionate about it. And it's authentic because you have, especially now, a lot of appropriation or people creating things just because it's trendy. And I want to be vocal because I want people to know, like, this is passion. This isn't me just doing something because, oh yeah, this is popular now. This is popping. Let's create this, which a lot of big companies do. And I've met with a lot of them after 2020, and they just want somebody Black, or they just want some kind of culture to show like we're hip. But it's like, if you're not really serious about that and authentic in it, people are going to start to ask questions and they're going to see. So with my art, it's just another side of me that's very personal. And I realized, like, after I did the whole, I built my business and all of these things, let me get back to what is like really reflective of me and me able to just create whatever is on my mind. Because when I work with these larger companies, in corporate America, you have politics and you have, let's approve this and you got to change this. And when I'm creating, when I'm
about that, Willie. I see Willie saying, yeah, right.
That's involved. And it's part of business. And actually when Paper Source filed for bankruptcy, I still work with them. But I mean, think about, you send somebody a bunch of product and they file for bankruptcy and you're like, where's my money? So, I mean, business is just all of these different aspects, and painting just allows me to get back to Krystal and whatever I'm feeling. And so when I met Jerome, he was like, yeah, I have a gallery. And I was like, oh, I'm an artist. And I've actually been painting and I wanted to show. So we've been talking about alignment during the show. And I feel like that was one of the things that aligned, and it being Women's History Month. And I was like, I'm not ready. And he's like, show what you have. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. So it's a big thing for me to be showing my art, but it's reflective of me. It's colorful. It's witty. It's funny. And I also want it to make people think, which is a theme throughout my artwork. But It's going to be on display this Saturday on the 12th at the art gallery L'Espace de Rêve in Harlem. So I'm very excited. But along with that, I'm still doing everything with Kaleidodope, with Hay House. I have another project releasing in October that I'm starting to do, preparing and promo for. And I'm also a certified teacher for Hay House, where I teach people how to, it's about card reading, but for me, it's more about interpreting signs. Like Willie Mae, you talked about how, in that moment, you realize that was a sign for you. And signs show up from God or whatever, whoever you believe in. My thing is spirituality.
Like you being here, you show. As a matter of fact, everyone is here. I always say, and I do the same thing. I write with the Harlem Community News, and most of the stuff that I write about, I'm dealing with myself. I just had a whole thing about depression, or we all fall down, and I was doing that because I was trying to put together this trip for Senegal, and it just was not working. I was, and I was depressed, and I was, but and then I write, so I write, and the thing that's interesting to me is that the articles or the things that people seem to resonate the most about really was stuff that I was writing to kind of get myself out of the thing that I was in. But
absolutely, and anytime you struggle, whatever you struggle with. When you
and people have
help someone else, it helps.
Somebody is doing the same thing. So, it's not just you. You're not, and that's what in mental health, one of the really interesting things that I was able to learn is that we don't, especially people of color, we don't really talk about mental health. We're starting to do better now. I mean, that is crazy, is something that does not really get to the point of what the pain is. And one of the things that I've learned that has helped me in my writing, as I was saying before, when I'm writing to myself and I publish it, so many other people are saying, hey, I'm glad that you wrote that. And I don't want to say I'm glad that you helped you, because I was writing that for myself, but it allows for me to understand that you're not alone. That what you're going through, many of the things that you feel that is just me, is something that I did, or something, my life is not what it's supposed to be. It's something that many people, and when you begin to understand that, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to talk to people like yourselves, you begin to understand that, well, this is just a phase I'm going through, but if I keep my faith out, the sun will come out eventually. It's not going to rain all of the time.
That's probably the biggest gift for me, is seeing how my work has affected people. People come up to me and say, I use your affirmations with my kids and it makes them empowered. Or I have therapists that use them with their clients, or people say, your style resonates with me. I didn't feel seen before, but I feel seen. I can buy a card and it's not something too sentimental, or it's not in a language that I don't speak. I resonate with your style because, we're of the same, and you get, your sense of humor aligns with mine. So it's deeper than just representation, in terms of people think Black art is just somebody Black who's painted. It goes deeper than that. It's subject matter, it's nuance, it's humor, it's experience, culture, all of these things. And the biggest gift is having people say, this has affected my life in a positive way. That to me is the most valuable thing. You can't put a price tag on.
I think that's huge. Like, for someone to look at your art, Krystal, and say, you didn't even know them, but you painted it because you were inspired by where you were. But they look at it and feel seen.
Yep.
To me, that's spiritual.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, I've had that feeling as well as in some of the writings that I've done. It allows for you to understand that there is a greater power. There's something that is much greater than what we see in our three-dimensional mindset. Speaking of which,
all connected.
We're all connected.
I always tell people, I'm guided by the ancestors. A lot of the things I do, I can't explain how I get it. It's something beyond me. Like I'm good, but I'm not that good. Like it's something pushing me. And I've even had dreams where people have come, and it's a little deep, but I've had dreams where people have come and
Yeah,
said, they're they're proud of what I'm doing, and if it weren't for racism, that they could have done more. And I feel like that's the push.
it's from the other life.
Yeah, yeah, and
You
it's
begin to sound a lot more like was Louise Hay. But
yeah, yeah,
anyway, how did you get the Hay House?
they saw my work.
Oh,
So
they came to you. That's
yeah,
always the best way.
which doesn't happen. So like I said, the things that have transpired, I mean, it's meant to be. But
Question, because this was something that I don't want to not ask you because about 3 times it came to my mind, but I was so enthused in your conversation, or everybody that I forgot. When you do your illustrations,
Mhm.
are you able to put some sort of Afrocentric touch or feel to it, or how do you take you into a tarot card or some of your illustrations that you do for Hay House, oracles and things like that?
Well, the reason when I started creating these decks in the first place, it was like, I don't really resonate with a lot of these things. And it's imagery, it's the wording, it's all of those.
Mhm.
So, specifically, when I paint, I typically am not a portrait artist. So, I don't paint people. But in my decks, I felt it was important to reflect people that look like me.
Hmm.
Things that look like me, familiar references. So, for example, in my affirmation deck, it's a picture, an illustration of the car that Ice Cube drove in his video. Today is a good day. So the affirmation is today is a good day. If you know, you know. It doesn't have to be blatant. It doesn't have to be, but you're like, oh, I know that. I recognize that. And it seems so basic. But to wake up and say today is a good day, you're declaring that. So anything that happens in the grand scheme of things, most likely you're going to be like, you know what? Today is going to be a good day. I'm not going to let that bring me down. So it's finding affirmations in our culture in ways that typically weren't before. Even quotes of people, like we have a very small group of quotes that get featured. If you think about it, we have Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, a few other people, but like it's almost like our words aren't powerful. Look at words from actors, musicians, rappers, all these. There are some powerful words. So I did my own, it's a deck I did called Dope Quotes, but it was to take these quotes and like give our words power. Because in my textbooks, I didn't see quotes that from people that look like me. So I try to take bits and pieces from culture of people that can that you recognize and can relate to and make it. And I do the same thing with my art. So when Hay House came to me, I mean, I'm like, you know what I've been doing. So I had already created 8 to 9 decks, and and I love that they were very receptive to what I was saying, but I was telling them like, it's the products aren't diverse. They're not diverse. And a lot of the art is antiquated. If art is an illustration of the time that we're living in, part of that has to illustrate the time that we're living in. That's why a lot of my art touches on modern themes or things that people can relate to in this time frame. I did a deck. I was inspired by 2020. It's called 2020 Visions Tarot. And it was inspired by a lot of things that happen. And if I'd said to you the hermit card, you'd be like, what? But what I illustrated was a mask, because the hermit card represents being isolated and going within and having reflection. And if you think about what happened during that year, a lot of people had to sit still that maybe hadn't in a while. And it forced them to really think and like, am I happy? Like, do I like my job? Like, what's going on in my life? So I try to pull in different themes that allow people to relate to whatever the concept is. And when I was talking to Hay House, they were just like, we would love to work with you, because at the time there were no Black people, period, creating decks. Maybe Ayanna Van Zan, I think she had one deck.
And for those who might not know, Hay House produces books dealing with inspirational
wellness.
Most people have read
a Hay
Hay
House.
House book in some
Yeah,
form.
they're huge when it comes to like wellness and self-help and spirituality and
Which
that.
brings us to, I know we have a couple of more minutes, and there's a question I have for you, Willie. But Harlem Holistic Wellness Week is April 30th to May 7th. It's a Saturday to Saturday. I have to talk with you about doing something for Harlem Holistic Wellness Week. I mean, it just, when we talk about that sign that went across the bus, when you started talking about Hay House and what you're doing, and I'm, Holistic Wellness Week. Even though Charlene, it is that we're going to do a lot in City College, but that's but we started at City College, right? So we're there. Willie Mae, one of the things that I wanted to just to get back to you with is when you're working with these groups, what's the most difficult thing in business planning and development that you feel that you come across in small businesses?
Having them have a clear vision, of why they started,
Krystal's well, that's why you're successful.
why they started the business, and then also how they want to exit the business. A lot of times with entrepreneurs, they're so caught up in getting it up and running and having it, do well. They haven't really thought about, how do I want to exit this incredible enterprise? Do I want to sell it? Do I want to leave it as a legacy? Or am I just going to shut it down? And because they haven't answered that question, they haven't truly set themselves up for success. And you have to really determine, how do you want to exit this in anything that you're in? How do I want to leave this? Yes, we want to leave at the top of our game, and we want to have a certain amount of money, but you also want to take care of your employees, and going through the process of identifying all of that, what that means for you, because we're all connected, right? Is really the difference between success and failure. So that whole exit strategy.
Krystal, I guess it's too early for you to start thinking a lot of that, but it's interesting. All things happen for a reason. So if you haven't been thinking about that, maybe.
Oh, I've been thinking about it. Yeah.
How your exit. I'm still thinking about it, and I've been around a long time. So,
and I just want to say that once you make that decision, right? Once Krystal decides, I want to sell Kaleidodope, her posture with the business changes. The way she speaks to everyone else changes, because now she's put at the forefront, I'm building this to sell it. It's a very different relationship.
Approach it different. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
Well, again, we give the location again for your opening and the time?
Yes, good point. So the address is 246 Malcolm X Boulevard between 122nd and 123rd. The time is between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m.
Okay.
So anytime between then, you can come in and check out my wonderful art, which I have never shown before. So it's pretty big for me. Also, it's funny, we've been talking about all these like alignment of signs, and I just wanted to share the name of my next project that's coming out in October. It touches on the Signs of the Times Oracle, and it talks about how people recognize signs in different ways and how you can relate to that and understand what that means to you. But a big part of that is being present and being one with yourself and understanding kind of, this means something to me. It might not mean anything to anybody else, but this means something to me. So I think that's a perfect way to pull all of those things together that we've been discussing. But as I said before, my website, my business is called Kaleidodope. The website is kaleidodope.com. I also have my own author website, which is krystalbanner.com. You can find my products in many stores, several in New York, but if you big box store, Paper Source, Barnes and Noble, you can find my products there. But I'm continuously growing, but the passion is always going to be to get people to recognize the power in art and to represent my culture and to have visibility for representation, so people can see themselves in my work.
Well, thank you, ladies. Charlene, as always, you always never ceases to amaze me as to how you do. Willie Mae, it's good to see you again, even though we're virtual. You were in our studio the last time we talked, but it's great to see you, Krystal. Um, we're going to see each other a lot. So there's so many things
Yes.
from South Carolina to holistic health,
So many overlapping things.
wellness,
Yes.
stuff that it's and all things happen for a reason.
Yes.
Because nothing happens by accident. There's a saying, what you might think to be a coincidence is really a message from the mind of the universe. So
Absolutely.
with that, I would like to thank you ladies for a wonderful show. Couldn't think of a better way to come into Women's History Month with three wonderful, brilliant women. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
Matt McCoy, thank you for pulling the strings behind the scenes. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
We're on our way to the Senegal. So I don't know. We might be broadcasting from Senegal. We're leaving on the 17th. So Soul City will be in Senegal. So we'll maybe bring some stuff to you. So take care, everyone, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. It was great.
Good.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Urbanology.